Let's get this right. Hey, what's going on, people? It is Tom Radigan, and I am with, of course, this guy right here, who you never met before, and I know I'm introducing it like you have, but this guy with the wonderful shades, Jacob Calvin.
Hey there, I don't know what I'm doing here. Send help, please.
Yeah, we did not think this live stream through. This was like a random, live stream and all that stuff. And we thought, why not? Why not give it a whirl? And So we are basically gonna just talk about. Let me get my stuttering out of the way before. But what you call it?
If you think he's bad, wait till I start talking.
We're just gonna start, going on talking about music and all that stuff, and because this guy has a radio show at the same school that I am at SUNY Oswego. I've mentioned that plug. I don't need to keep mentioning it. Yeah, he does a show called Anything Goes, right?
Yep, Anything Goes. 10 to 11 Eastern Standard Time every night, every Sunday night. That is basically I just kind of play whatever the hell I damn well feel like.
Yeah.
The only thing is, on here I get to swear. On there, the FCC is gonna, fucking tear me a new asshole. If I say one sour word.
Yeah, I know. That's why you can't play Elton John. The bitch got back. That's why you can't. It's gonna be censored. It's like the whole.
Fortunately,
he's back. He's back. Back.
Fortunately, I play in Safe Harbor Hour, so while I can't say, piss, shit, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits, fart, turd, and twat. The music can, which is always a gas.
Oh, that's good, right? Because I forgot of that.
Yeah, no, that's the nice thing about running that, at least.
Yeah, that's one good thing. So we basically thought of just talking about just a random debate. We're just some debates in music, just anything really, like the way he has it, anything goes, and all that. So I guess the first thing we can talk about is what is your main passion with, music? What's your main decade that you love jamming to?
Okay, that's $1 million question. Because my problem is because I kind of run the gamut of everything.
Yeah.
I will vacillate from, like, the show I got coming up tomorrow is jazz predominantly. Anything from hard bop of the late 50s, like Art Blakey and that stuff, all the way up to some really smooth fusion, rare group type things that I've been digging up. I have a lot of places I can thank for, helping me find that stuff. Channels like Andre Navarro 2. I think Music for Empty Rooms is one I've been listening to a lot lately. Or Emptying Rooms. I'm not too sure off the top of my head. Also, stuff like Vinyl Frontier, Son Image. Really, really fantastic name to try and pronounce both those N's and both those M's. Basically, I've kind of cruised the rare groove scene, and I'm one of the 5 people that doesn't go first to flip. No offense to producers that actually make decent, music out of sampling. I respect that stuff. I did that over this past summer. Took a Brad Fidel theme to a slasher film, Night School, and turned it into this really weird lo-fi thing. Of all things, the beat was made out of the sampled beatboxing of Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Repping the king today from my favorite song of his, Stranger in Moscow, as well as, of all things, the opening to It's a Man's World by James Brown, the little piano glissando from freaking I Want You Back by the Jackson 5. And yeah, it was a fun little piece of plunderbuss. The point is, I respect the samplers of the world, because I myself have gotten a taste of that action, and
that's good.
But that's also where I get a lot of the really cool old weird stuff that I find and I listen to.
Right.
And so I can go from that to literally the most obvious, everyone and their freaking grandmothers heard of that stuff, like massive into Elvis, again massive into MJ, massive into of course, Beatles, Stones, all the classics. But right now, I'd argue, and it's just because it's a project that I've been, kind of tooling around with. I won't spill the details just yet. This will either age poorly or it'll age fantastically. But I got a pulp magazine project I've been working on for past few months now, and I'm starting to really get some headway going on it. And I've mainly been bumping nothing but the finest metal I can find. And I mean, this goes everything from Dokken, like, classic under lock and key era type stuff. I mean, In My Dreams, perennial favorite, to what I consider to be my all-time, and I'll put this into the ether that is the internet. Hand to God, all-time favorite band, fucking Motorhead.
Interesting.
Abso-goddamn-lutely Motorhead.
Interesting.
And
yeah,
I mean, it goes well beyond Ace of Spades, Overkill, Bomber. I'm talking Sacrifice, Bastards. The stuff they did for No Remorse when Saxon luminary Pete Gill finally came to the fray, stole the word luminary from another man. Another man who rocks aviators better than I do. I'll just leave it like that. But I mean, literally a lot. It's mostly been metal, and it's you should see the amount of freaking graphic tees I got in my drawers back. I got Priest British Steel, Motorhead's Overkill. Most recently, I got a sleeveless shirt of Black Sabbath's Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, if only exclusively for the fact that Killing Yourself to Live is, hands to God, one of the best, if not one of the best songs from the Ozzy era, hands to God, one of the best songs from the band, period, in my opinion. It goes through like 3 different fucking genres all at once.
Yeah.
Like you go from hard rock to classic Sabbath doom to kicking it into freaking high gear for the back half of the track, all over a 6-minute piece. Where I listen to Killing Yourself to Live. Just, majestic.
Yeah, I mean that's like kind of like with me lately, because it's like how you were saying like you're more into like that, like the oldies kicks at times, like Elvis, Buddy Holly. I mean that's like I got into that 10 years ago from watching the Buddy Holly story. I actually just watched that yesterday, even though they got a lot of facts wrong. I still love that film because I guess it has more nostalgic reasons for me, I think. But Gary Busey was good in that before, of course, the later Gary Busey years. We don't need to go into
before the heyday of majestic works like Silver Bullet.
Yeah. But no, so and then of course, I was a Beatles fan before Elvis and Beatles, and before Elvis and Buddy Holly, and all that, and like this, I love the Stones and all that stuff. But I've been really like more getting into like stuff from from recommendations from friends and all that stuff from for instance, even stuff that my father loved that I didn't, even try yet, like Steely Dan. I started listening to a lot of their stuff.
Right.
I love Countdown to Ecstasy. I think it's so funny too, because the longest time the song that got to me was Showbiz Kids, and what's so interesting about that is you go to because it's is it Las Wages or Las Vegas, and then the whole thing is it's the pun because that's the point. It's supposed to sound like both. Because apparently I didn't notice it was from a Lenny Bruce joke and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you know that album or did you listen to that album?
Can't say I have.
Okay, no, because for some reason I thought you were a Steely Dan fan or something like that.
I dig them. I haven't dug too deep into them.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way. Here's the extent of my Steely Dan fanaticism, I guess you'd say. Do It Again's a classic. Absolute classic.
Yeah.
And here's a deep cut. If you want a really neat little jazz fusion smooth type piece, listen to Donald Fagen's True Companion from the soundtrack to one of my personal favorite. Yeah, one of my personal favorite animated films. To some, everyone's heard of this one. Also, I do acknowledge it's still like a cult phenomenon. So it's heavy metal, 1981, classic Ivan Reitman joint, based off of the magazines. I got at least 3 issues off the top of my head right now. Most of them are late 70s. I got at least one from 82, 83. Okay. But basically, that was a track he had written. I think it was actually Fagan coming off of a hiatus, if I'm not mistaken. That was the first.
Becker?
Yeah, that was the first track he had actually done after the whole breakup and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was kind of interesting to find out. But it is a beautiful
The
track.
thing about Steely Dan I always found so interesting is that, from videos I've seen about, people analyzing their music, is some people say they're not even really a band. It's more of an aesthetic,
Right.
It's and I see, they're almost kind of how it's there's bands like Gorillaz and Tame Impala that are not really bands in the sense, because it's really just two in one guy. And then,
Yeah.
like for instance, like Tame Impala is one guy. Yeah, and also like the same with Gorillaz. But like, and the same with Steely Dan. It was just Donald Fagen, Walter Becker, and they had other people like Jeffrey Skunk Baxter, who ended up I think becoming the Doobie Brothers, I think, and
Gotcha.
and then there was the guy who was actually pretty good on the first album, and then they got rid of him for some reason. David Palmer. He was apparently just there because Donald Fagen apparently got a lot of stage fright, and he was going to be the lead singer of the group. And they were saying that, like, when they do live performances, they'll have David Palmer do it, but just Donald Fagen just do the studio recording. But then I think it's like he got comfortable, doing it, so then they basically just ditched him. But even though he was pretty good on some tracks like Dirty Work and what was the other one? Brooklyn Owns the Charm. But the thing about it is that I think a lot of what people have problems with Dave Palmer's voice is, even though it's a beautiful voice in all sense, and it's like he brings a good taste to it. Their style was so sarcastic and like their like crazy sense of humor, and it just some people say that the only way for those lines to get delivered is from Fagen himself.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I've had that happen when I'm listening to certain songs, and I told this to a friend the other day. I think he was probably wondering what I was smoking, and to be fair, I'm probably wondering what I'm smoking too. But all right, I'll give you a story. So I'm listening to Fire of Unknown Origin, like not just the album, Blue Oyster Cult, which, by the way, fucking love it. Absolutely. Everything for like heavy metal, Black and Silver, Vengeance, Veteran of the Psychic Wars, co-written by, pulp legend Michael Moorcock, Soul Survivor, its literal sequel right there on the album. No, but straight up the title track. And the most bizarre thought in my mind just crossed my freaking brain. Why does this sound better when I'm hearing it in Joey Ramone's voice? Because God love Eric Bloom. Dude's got a great voice. It's kind of funny. Buck Dharma's always singing the hits, but we'll set that aside for now. And I mean, Don't Fear the Reaper, Burden for You. Yeah. That's also just a testament to Buck's smooth as fucking butter voice.
Yeah.
But
they need more cowbell on that one.
Christ almighty. I'm out of here. No, but for real. Like, God love Eric Bloom. Incredible vocalist. That is the one song in like the history of songs I've ever listened to where I'm thinking, for some reason, I just like a different vocalist on this. And don't ask me why. It's just the cadence of it, it's the range.
Yeah.
Fucking bring on Joey Ramone. Just why the fuck not? Yeah, by the way, also massive Ramones fan as well.
I gotta get more into Ramones because it's funny because I always thought I knew my father's music taste, but I didn't know until like a year ago that like the way he said it, he's like, oh yeah, I dig the Ramones, and I was like, I didn't know that. He's like, oh yeah, like I had a lot of the records when they when they were big and all that. I was like, oh, I didn't know that because my father was a huge Grateful Dead fan.
Right.
He actually like followed them around for a year and all that stuff in '81.
Genuine Deadite.
He went to Colorado to see them. He went to Alaska to see them and all that. And this was, he was a big Deadhead fan. And, there was, I don't know if you know the big Radio City music show they did in 1980 and all that stuff.
Right.
He was at that show, and he went to all 3 nights. And he, I think, remembered that he doesn't know for sure, but because Time Magazine got a cover of the fans like waiting outside, and this was like on the cover of that issue, and he thinks that he could see himself on there, but he said there was a lot of people with black hair and glasses in like an armchair and all that stuff on the line. Because there was one time I was watching a video and there was a fan and it looked like my father. Like it looked like my father talking. He didn't have the name. He didn't say the name Joe Radigan, but I'm like, that looked like 100% like my father. And I'm like, but like he said, no, it wasn't me. He was saying if I didn't have my glasses on, it wasn't me. Yeah, like he said because he said at that time I always had my glasses on.
That's fair.
Like so he got me into the Grateful Dead. Honestly, I got into the Grateful Dead I think before really I got into the Beatles, even though the Beatles is still like my favorite group of of all
Right,
time.
right.
He had a cassette of the Grateful Dead album, which is basically just called Grateful Dead, but it's known as Skull and Roses and all that stuff. It just had their
Right.
50th anniversary. Jerry Garcia actually wanted to title it Skull Fuck and all that stuff with the record label, of course. Yeah,
They'll do that to you. I mean, after all,
Yeah.
Saxon was originally going to go on the road as,
Yeah.
I believe, son of a bitch.
Yeah, but like when my dad and I were talking about that, my dad was saying that was that was just Jerry Garcia's humor and all that. But whatchamacallit, with Creed's Clearwater Revival, the first cassette I listened to was Chronicle, the greatest hits album, because it's one of their best-selling albums too. It's one of their it's out of all their albums, their studio albums, that is their best-selling album, compilation album.
Right.
Which is funny because that's not uncommon. That's the Eagles, I think, their best-selling album.
Yeah.
And isn't it wasn't it considered the best-selling album of all time before Thriller, I think?
Basically, I guess what happened is that in pure sales, there was a moment where it kind of eclipsed it.
Okay.
But to be fair, it is one of those things where it really doesn't count because it's a compilation record. It's not
Right.
an actual studio album.
Yeah, exactly.
At least it holds still the best-selling compilation album of all time.
Yeah. I think because from what I heard, it had the same record at the time as Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and stuff like that. Because Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, I know, was Elton John's best-selling record and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean that's a great album too, and all that stuff. I know I'm getting off a little on a tangent now, but yeah, no, I mean, with Elton John stuff, I mean, yeah, how we're talking about, music influences. It's funny, in senior year of high school, that's when I really got into Elton John. Elton John became my favorite artist, all that stuff, and I started listening to Your Song, everything, repeatedly, from stuff like
Right.
Philadelphia Freedom, all the '70s stuff. And then even going into stuff like Rock of the Westies years, doing Island Girl, Grow Some Funk of Your Own, which is a killer song.
Right.
And the same with, I feel like, A Bullet in the Gun, Robert Ford. I don't know if you ever listened to any of those tracks and all that stuff.
I'll put it this way. And this is not a shot at Elton John or anything. I just haven't dug deeper into his catalog. And although personally, I will say one of my all-timers from him is Benny and the Jets. Just
Benny.
Basic pick, but I mean it's a hell of a track.
Yeah.
I also love how this man talks so fast he forgot I just called Grateful Dead fans freaking members of the Evil Dead.
I did not hear that. I did not hear
Call
that.
them fucking Deadites, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, no, he's commented on me fast talking, which I take as an accomplishment.
Well, I mean, this man is from, I believe it is Long Island.
Long Island, yeah, we're known as that, so
Right.
Yeah, I still don't think I'm as fast as the guy who could do Bad in '87. That guy.
Oh yeah, the Micro Machines, dude.
Yeah. Oh, that guy.
Don't even make me try that.
I can't.
I'd probably
I'm going
fucking
to stutter.
get winded.
If you think I'm a stumbling fool now, you'll think I'm even more of a stumbling fool. So I'm not gonna do that. I have some dignity for myself.
That's fair.
But
I await you to hit freaking Ben Shapiro speed in due time.
Oh God. Yeah.
Well, actually, folks.
Well, Ben Shapiro.
No. If you do that, I think it'll just become unintelligible because you'll be moving at the speed of freaking
Well,
light.
personally, yeah. Oh my God! Imagine if I talked about the Beatles in Ben Shapiro way. So the Beatles with their album "Please Please Me," it's no, just so you know, it's "Please Please Me." It's a horrible message from what is going on.
Christ almighty.
It's yeah. If you think Cardi B's wet ass P word is bad, I'm not even gonna go.
Please spare me.
I can't.
Please spare me.
I can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll fucking rein this man in.
Yeah, let's rein it.
I will say, I guess one thing I'd also kind of like to grill you a little bit about is, and this is just because I've been listening to them a lot lately. It's also kind of interest too because they've been on the road. God willing, Richie Faulkner's going to be back up on his to be shredding away. But any big thoughts on Judas Priest? Because I will say that Priest has become one of my big bands lately.
I've never listened to Judas Priest, honestly.
Damn.
I know, it's so funny. We always thought we had the same music taste because one time we were talking about because I was on a 50s kick and I have some podcast episodes that are still coming out, by the way. And I was talking about Elvis and Little Richard, and he had a radio show episode dedicated to all those artists.
Oh yeah, no, it was a really really cool '50s piece I had done. I busted out. I tore down the show with a good. I think it ended with "Good Golly Miss Molly."
Oh yeah.
And I had stuff by I believe Buddy Holly, James Brown, back in the Famous Flames days, and specifically the genuine rock and roll era before he really kind of broke out the funk on tracks. Papa's Got a Brand New Bag.
Yeah. Because his '50s one was Please, Please, and what was the other one? Oh, Try Me. Yeah.
Try Me, Please. Think is love it.
And then and I Want You So Bad is I also like that one too. Yeah.
I believe off the top of my head though, because again, that man made so many goddamn.
Yeah, that one I don't think was as well known, but and another artist, I don't know if you played him on that night but how we talk about how James Brown, had some stuff in the '50s and then he went on in the '60s and just became bigger than ever.
Right.
And that's sort of the same with Sam Cooke,
Yeah, that's true.
Because it was he had You Send Me, and he had I think Summertime as well. That was the B-side to that.
Right.
And then everybody likes the Cha Cha Cha, and of course but then in the '60s, then he had stuff like Wonderful World, Cupid, Bring It On Home, and then of course the greatest one of all time, The Change Is Gonna Come.
Right. And then I go ahead and ask this man about metal, and he's like,
yeah. My friend tried to get me into Van Halen, if that's good, because I listened to their first.
That's a stepping stone. That's kind of good.
Stone.
That going from hard rock into heavy metal. I believe the term back in the day was heavy rock, actually.
I know they're not so much heavy metal, but if this makes up for anything, I am trying to get more into the Foo Fighters.
That's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Because I've just been watching a lot of Dave Grohl clips on Howard Stern, so I'm yeah. And my roommate just looked at me and gave me the nod up, yeah, that's the thing.
And to be fair, he got in the good graces of God himself, Lemmy's. I mean, that can't be too bad.
Yeah.
Because after all, it was him, Lem, and I'm trying to remember who was the third guy, but they did that cover of a Run. That was a Run Rudolph Run, I think, or Run Rudolph. Point is, it was the Chuck Berry Christmas song.
Oh, Run Rudolph,
yeah.
Well, it's funny too. He also talks about how apparently he loves the Beatles song "Hey Bulldog" and all that sense. Dave Grohl says that it's a great, phenomenal song. And that's the thing, because with the Beatles stuff, from Yellow Submarine, that, because that was just a joke album. I make my friends make fun of me all the time because I'll always be Yellow Submarine is not an album and all that sense, because it wasn't, because it had Yellow Submarine that was already on Revolver, All You Need Is Love, which was already a Magical Mystery Tour. Right. And it was the four. I mean, and listen, I love all four of those great songs, but I think those work better as singles, because it's Only a Northern Song, I think, is the best one on that, and it would have worked perfectly for Sgt. Pepper, but it didn't make the cut, and we got With and Without You and all that stuff, which isn't the worst song and all that stuff, but not my favorite George track.
Gotcha.
Because George had, this is a guy who had other stuff While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Taxman.
Right.
Of course, yeah. And then of course, Something, Here Comes the Sun.
Right.
But yeah, no. I forget what we were really talking about. Oh, we're going into heavy metal, right?
Yeah. I'm not doing a good job.
No, it's all right, man. We're the whole point of the stream was to go a little bit off tangent. Just like I say, I don't really try to have a structure with streams and all that stuff and stuff, because with creativity, you don't want to have a guideline. It's not we're under any pressure of deadlines. So that's why I want to keep it.
I dedicate this one to the people of the future. Judging by that view count.
Yeah, I know, right? I know that's sad. It's sad, but but I do have some people that love this, because it's when I in the summer I started interviewing musicians and all that sense, and more musicians started checking this out, and they're like, oh hey, can I would love to come on. Stuff, and it became more of I'm not even worthy of saying I have a cold phenomenon, but in some ways, a lot of people I get I get compliments from like musicians being like digging what I do in that sense, and
Nice.
it's like I want to keep doing this and stuff like that, and especially because I still have my podcast that I love to talk about. Because I mean, the one thing that I feel like that works is even though because I don't want to get copyrighted as much as I would love to put like the music on that.
Right.
I feel like in a sense because I love talk because I just love the history of music. Like ever since I was 11, honestly, I loved like figuring out what was the B side of a single, what the producer was, who wrote the song, and all the sense. And it's like it's so interesting nowadays because I feel like I'm not a huge fan of modern music, and like the closest I have been getting into listening to current music is still technically kind of considered old now because I was listening to John Mayer's first album, which is now 20 years old, and so I'm still I'm still technically in the old age in a sense, but like because people are calling that old now. Isn't it sad that people are calling the 2000s old now?
Yeah, I had this one moment where I realized people are going to grow nostalgic for the 2000s, and I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm ready for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm ready for that either.
I'm fucking born in 01. I at least can lay claim to the fact that I came out in this. I at least can lay claim to the fact that I was born the same year as Michael Jackson's Invincible.
Oh yeah.
And no other significant world events and or things.
Oh my god. Well, it's funny because there's this YouTuber JT Curtis, which they addressed, of course, 9/11 and all that stuff, but they talked about like the most tragic because he does like the history of rock, so he did the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and he did the 90s. He didn't because he thought why not because the 90s was his decade growing up in that, and he was debating about doing the 2000s because he was an artist at that time and he just wasn't into really listening to that much going on. But anyway, because his fans really wanted it, and he thought, why not? And they make a thing saying, but then the most horrible thing happened in our history, and they talk about it's American Idol and stuff like that.
Oh my god!
They go with that, and it is funny because it's like they talk about how it was bad at reality TV in a sense, kind of or music TV kind of kind of limited or just wasn't so because for instance American Idol was just focusing on one aspect in music and singing and there's so much more that makes a hit record and all that. And what happened to a lot of these people that won
from Justin to Kelly for starters.
Yeah. Wait, which Justin?
It was the runner-up and top of the pick for I think the first season, which was Kelly Clarkson.
Oh, okay, right. Well, of course, Kelly Clarkson I think is the biggest one. Same with Carrie Underwood, I think.
Right.
I mean, there was a few. I mean, Adam Lambert is now with Queen, so that's one thing.
That's true, but I mean, I'll put it this way: if you ever wanted Queen plus anything, dig up Queen plus Paul Rogers. Absolutely, okay. The Cosmos rocks. Plus Rogers' version of the show must go on from the live tour. Oh my fucking god! Hang on to your fucking ass.
One thing I want, so music I've been trying to get more into is I've been listening to I listened to John Mayer's album Root for Squares. I've also wanted to listen to more of Rob Thomas and Matchbox 20 and all that. And I was listening to the song Disease, which was funny because I didn't know that that was a co-write to Mick Jagger and all that sense. I didn't know. Well, I don't know if you know that story because I just found this out and stuff like that. That apparently they were like he was gonna give it to Mick Jagger for his album, and Mick Jagger was like, "This sounds more like a better song for you," and all that stuff, and he gave it to them, and of course it was a big hit for Matchbox 20. And it's interesting too, and I think and I just showed a lot of I think that he was just very generous to do that. Considering I think it's because Mick Jagger he was already a big rock star. It's not like he needed another hit. In that sense. Right. And I think he was being generous of looking out for a group that why I do this when a group that can actually probably do this better than me and get a hit out of this. Because I think it's maybe he was looking at the landscape that because unfortunately artists like Bob Dylan, Paul McCartney, Mick Jagger, or the Stones, they might all put out a good album now, but people are going to be focused on the younger people. Right. So they're not going to be focused on as much. I mean, Paul McCartney's Egypt Station did get number 1, I think, on the Billboard. Right. But it's been a while, but I don't know if that's more of just people being come on, give him number 1 because he's Paul McCartney. I don't know. even though I think it's a great album. I mean, I thought some of the songs were good, and of course, even though I will try to listen to their new stuff, I still am stuck on the old stuff. I'm still like, I can't get into like the new stuff. You know, I'm still stuck on like 60s, 70s, and it'll take me a while to get out of that. You know.
I see that.
And 80s, I mean 80s too. Like I love Prince. I mean the Police are one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, of course.
I love, oh yeah, like Walking on the Moon, Next to You and all that.
Well, I mean, I'll put it this way. One way I kind of wean myself into, kind of contemporary music largely has been it's been a lot of electronica.
Okay.
Because you've got kind of 90s acts that also persisted into today, like Aphex Twin. You've got really some incredible artists that have come out, like Flying Lotus, for example. But also like the very retro stuff. Like I produce my own music as well. I do some like synthwave, Jason type stuff. And of course I, grew up as far as my high school years go with, Laserhawk, of course, we're in the same era of, Comtrues, Kapinski, that whole nine. And it goes even beyond that, popular acts that have that kind of retro flair. Like, of all things, CeeLo Green coming out with a retro soul record that is phenomenally good. Like, phenomenally good. With really, really fun, infectious tracks. One of my favorite is this bizarre kind of almost, not even bizarre in like a, oh my God, this is so weird, but just bizarre. And I never would have expected this from him. Essentially kind of slice of country soul track called People Watch. Oh, that's a fun one. And of course, Silk Sonic is a new project that's just, kind of come to fruition. And, if it has the blessing of fucking Bootsy Collins, at least has something going for it.
Wait, Silk Sonic, that's not the new group, you mean? Like the new album?
Yeah, because Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'm not, one of the big, fan of like the big pop princes that kind of came out, out of the 2000s into the 2010s.
Yeah, same.
I am genuinely surprised by how well Mars comports himself to kind of the retro sort of affectation. Whether it's the kind of bubbly post-disco thing he had going on Treasure, or of course, when I was listening to some of the stuff that was in rotation when I was getting ready to program my show, a track from his last solo album that was full on New Jack Swing. Just absolutely not. And I'm a big fan of New Jack Swing as well. Not just because of, Dangerous or anything like that, but also, old school Bobby Brown, the whole The Face family. Teddy Riley, every joint that man's ever touched, from freaking Guy to Blackstreet. Although Blackstreet's kind of more into a smoother sort of like R&B thing, stuff like Joy, Before I Let You Go. And that's just one of their earliest fucking albums. But the point is, that's kind of the way I get into modern stuff, as well as also just stuff that it just fucking sounds good. It's just, you gotta have something that actually, I think Mickey D kind of put it best. He was talking about, when he, drumming, the way that congeals with tracks, but he's like, like when it gets there, it's supposed to taste good. And that's just kind of a good way to approach music at all, basically. And that's kind of the way I have been. Because, I mean, I'm surprised by shit I fucking listen to. Like, I fucking bump Mariah Carey every now and then. Oh, wow. Well, specifically, there's one track off of the infamous national tragedy that was Glitter. Called, not to be conflated with any other national tragedies, in the year of our 2001.
Oh, right. Glitter was in 2001.
I
thought that was 2000.
Oh, no. It had the misfortune of releasing the same day. But there was a track on the record called All My Life that was written and produced by the king of punk funk himself, Rick Goddamn James. And that fucking bass line fucking clobbered me. And I mean, and the funniest thing is, the story I was told is that Carrie wanted something more along the lines of Mary Jane Girls. Okay. So stuff like, Boys, In My House, stuff like that. And instead, it's almost like James kind of gave her basically his own punk funk sound. Like his whole, I'd argue, is probably closer to trying to think. I mean, I think it must have been Throwing Down era. Like it had to have been between Street Songs and Cold Blooded.
Okay.
That whole era. Like before he went harder into, electro, the electro kind of stuff, like with not necessarily You Bring the Freak Out in Me, not necessarily Ebony Eyes, but stuff like Pimp the Simp and stuff, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then of course, full pop R&B on, albums like Glow, which honestly I dig because in my humble opinion, man was an underrated producer. Everything he touched in 85 turned to gold and probably platinum, but most likely gold still. Like we're talking because he had the doo-wop project, Processing the Do-Rags with the classic Stomp and Shout. He had, of course, his own record, Glow.
This is some stuff I didn't even know.
Yeah, no, I mean, Mary Jane Girls with In My House, which is, it's hand to God, one of the best girl group tracks. And then, of course, the crown jewel of it all. You ready for this one?
Okay, ready. Wow.
Party All the Time by Eddie Murphy.
Oh my God.
Polished to a fucking fine veneer. And I mean, it's this bizarrely infectious kind of thing where it's like he's got full bottom end, but this whole reverberated ethereal thing going for it on top. So it's like the perfect kind of transferring of like from the raw punk funk stuff they was doing late 70s, busting out, Mary Jane, into, of course, the more synth-based stuff you'd wind up doing. But yeah, no.
Well, you sound like a guy that'd be interested because my friend, I've wanted to get more into them, is Parliament Funkadelic.
Big P-Funk man.
Oh, absolutely. You are? Okay, awesome.
Absolutely.
I've got to get more into their catalog because I have a friend who told me about them, and he's trying to get more into them, but he loves a lot of their stuff. And all
I know, of course. And I mean, if you want,
yeah,
because obviously you're going to be coming out of the classic rock phase. So I mean, I think it's almost mandatory. It's almost like a freaking hazing ritual. But you got to sit down and subject yourself to all 10 minutes of the majesty that is Eddie Hazel on Maggot Brain.
Okay.
Like, bro, the fucking man makes the guitar cry.
Interesting.
And I mean, fucking cry like a newborn child.
Well,
it is fucking gorgeous shit. But I mean, of course, everyone knows, Parliament Funkadelic, the whole P-Funk collective has so many infectious tracks. I mean, fucking...
Right. Well, it's George Clinton, because
George Clinton's a fucking madman, and God bless him for it.
Well, I think the
original Atomic Dog.
I sort of see George Clinton as somebody, because it's like, he's such an innovator, and he was somebody who had a lot of groups and a lot of songs that just came out in the 70s, and this guy started in the 50s. I sort of see him similar to somebody like Frank Zappa, in a sense.
I can see it.
Because are you a Frank Zappa fan by any chance?
Yeah, a little I dabble here and there.
I gotta listen to more of Zappa and all that sense.
Right.
But one interesting thing about Zappa, and I've told you a little bit about them. But if you really want to get into, they've got rock, country, and funk, and that's Little Feat. Yeah. They have got some great. Lowell George is probably one of the best white soul singers out there, and I would say with him, of course, Pink Pen from the Grateful Dead, Felix Cavalier from the Rascals, and I would say Richard Manuel from the band. I mean, of course, Levon Helm as well. But honestly, I know this sounds. I know everybody always loves Levon and all that stuff, but I think Richard Manuel, is a better vocalist, honestly, in my opinion. Because if you hear him on songs like Tears of Rage, I Shall Be Released, but then that's his falsetto stuff. But when you hear him on stuff like, I don't know, Rocking Chair, or the best one of his, I think, is The Shape I'm In, which Robbie Robertson wrote about who he was, because he was known as this kind of wild type of person, and just I think he was known. I think he had a bad childhood and stuff like that, or just a really like kind of troubled. Well, I think very much of a troubled soul, and so he writes about more of that in that song. So and I think like I mean like anything he did on the band on the early band albums and all that stuff. But from what you're saying, I think okay, I lost myself again. I knew that was gonna happen. But
No, worst comes to worst, you say.
it's called random rock for a reason, I think. So we knew that this was gonna happen, or I knew this was gonna happen because
Yeah, worst comes to worst, you say. Thought it was cute, might delete later.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's one thing. Yeah. That sounds like a bad meme that you just sent to the wrong person that you wish you never sent.
Good Lord.
Yeah. No, but whatchamacallit? Well, I mean, other stuff that I've been, like, because Max Works 20, John Mayer, I've been trying to get into, but I was talking about Little Feat. So Lowell George is probably also one of the best guitarists too, and he was an interesting, I think, frontman for the group. He started out with Frank Zappa actually, and there's a few stories of the reason why he left Frank Zappa and other inventions. And I think one reason why was because he had a song called Willing that he did with Little Feat. And the reason why was there were two different stories. One story was that Frank Zappa got rid of him because he said he was too big of a star, that like he needs to be in his own group, and stuff. So he's got he can't be a side guy. And then there's another story is that he fired him because he has like the words weed and wine and all that stuff, and that's why he got rid of him. So who knows what the true story, and I think there was a third story, but I can't remember what the third argument was. But anyway, no. So stuff they did on an album like Dixie Chicken. He had like stuff like Two Trains, which has their funk element, and especially there were two other guys in the group that also were just as good, like Bill Payne and Paul Bourret. Like one song I love from Paul Bourret is it's on Featstone Family Now, and what's so great about the album Featstone Family Now is it has three great like songs from the beginning. So it starts off with a song called Rock and Roll Doctor, and the thing that's so interesting about it is like it's sort of like a regular 12-bar blues kind of a boogie woogie kind of track, but the difference is it's compressed into like to make it a little bit slower, the guitar beat, into a point where you can't dance to it like a regular boogie woogie kind of thing. And then it goes into like Bill Payne's song "Old Manta," which is more of like a fast pace, got that boogie woogie too kind of style in a sense. Then you've got Skin It Back, which Paul Pereira does, and that because I already knew the songs "Old Manta" and "Rock and Roll Doctor," but then when I decided to listen to the full album, I put on Skin It Back, and I'm like, what the fuck did I just listen to? It is funky as hell. And I don't know if you'll have the same reaction to me if you ever listen to the song, but like when you hear it, it's just like the bass, just the whole beat, and it's just, it brings the funk out of it. And you just like are really like I remember like just like having like my earbuds in and I'm listening to it for like the first and second time and I'm just like dozing my head already and just like really like it took me in like it really like took me on a trip and stuff. And it was just a really and like the lyrics in it just very like majestic at times, and so definitely a band I recommend. I also recommend that's a good album to get into. Them Featstone Family Now and also Dixie Chicken. Those are their biggest albums and stuff. No, so definitely that. Any more thoughts before we wrap up? Or
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little tired actually. I just got done failing at Pro Tools, so I mean,
it's all right. It's all right. So late at night and almost Thanksgiving, so I think we're all having that type of
can't wait for break to come because fun fact for the fine folks out there in video land, I'm in fact a filmmaker by trade.
All right.
Haven't watched a goddamn film in about a fucking month. So I got some catching up to do.
Yeah.
as well as scripts to write, scripts to read, story treatments to read, story treatments to write. I got a lot of fucking shit to do this weekend. Send help.
This is an interesting character. That's why I wanted him on for you people. And don't forget to check out his radio show, Anything Goes, on WNYO on Sunday nights at 10, right? Said it right.
10 to
I said it
11
right.
Eastern
Okay, cool.
Standard Time in the evenings. And for those who are out there in the World Wide Web, that is at WMYO889.org, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that is. I'll make sure to put the link in.
All right, killer.
All right. Well, thank you guys for this random rock live stream. I might do some little bit more live streams for you guys this week. Who knows? I don't know. Hopefully some podcasts will be uploaded if my stupid computer can just send the video. So before I go on a rant, I want to end right now. You know what? So bye. Have a good evening and good night. And always see you next time. Bye.
Peace out.